Oh, Phil. Today I'm going to show you how to make tech house in the style of Chris Lake. Chris Lake is the boss of Black Book Records and he's got a really distinctive style of tech house. You guys voted for this in the YouTube poll last week, so thanks for taking part. And as usual, you can download this project file, all the samples and presets completely free to use in your own music and create your own tracks. So today we're going to be creating that filthy house beat from scratch. We're also going to be doing some sound design work in the synths, and we'll also record and process our own really weird vocals as well. I like tea, and tea likes me. And we're going to be going into some mixing, some mastering and arrangement as well. And as usual, I'm just using the stock plugins from within Ableton Live, but you can follow along in any DAW because these techniques will still apply. A quick shout out to our accelerator student Rodrigo Serna, who's hit over 1 million streams on Spotify, and you can check out his tech house music by clicking the link below this video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram for music production tips each and every day. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel because it really helps me out, and click that notification bell to make sure you never miss one. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. So without further ado, let's hop into the DAW and get it done. Okay, I'm armed with my magic list. Let's get to it from scratch. Tech house in the style of Chris Lake. Now the first thing we need to do, obviously, is to put a tempo in. So I'm going to put it at 126 BPM, and that should suit us fine. Next thing we need to do is name this bad boy. And what should we call this? Chris Lake, tech house. Let's call it House on the Lake. Oh my God. Anyway, that's what we're calling it. Okay, you can download it below. First, let's talk about the vibe of Chris's music. So I've loved his music for the last, I don't know how long he's been producing, since 2004 or something. I think I first heard his music. But his current sound is really kind of futuristic sounding tech house. There's a few things that really stand out. One of which is the fact that he uses kind of standard house drums, but everything's just driven a little bit hard. There's some saturation, there's some distortion, but with clever use of gain staging, it gives the impression of loudness without actually clipping all the time, which is what we want. He's also got really good use of simple sounding basses, but then through clever use of stereo width, he will kind of extend it, make it really wide and filtered for some parts of the track, then bring it in nice and close and tight for those tech house drops. He's also got a really good interplay of different synths as well. So we're going to be doing all of that today, as well as recording some vocals as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a kick, and let's start looking at how to get that kick sounding really kind of big and slightly driven. So I'm going to go to my favorites folder, kick. Let's just use quite a nice solid kick and program that in on every beat. This is going to be slightly different from how I usually do it because we want to create this big, boomy, huge sound, basically. So this is our standard kick at the moment. And now let's beef it up by using the drum bus that comes with Ableton Live. So I'm just going to put this afterwards. And this is great because you've got some saturation in here, you've got some bit reduction, and you've got something that's very similar to the Bark of Dog, which is a plugin I absolutely love, use on every track. But let's add some kind of deep bass boom on this. Now 100% is probably a bit much, the dry whack control, so let's just add a little bit of this drive. So you can hear we're already getting that distorted sound. Now let's add some of this boom as well. So you can hear that bass is now extending, and we're just going to damp down some of these high frequencies, get it sounding a bit tighter. So we've got a much bigger sounding bass drum. Okay, on to the next thing, the bass itself. Now I want to create this from scratch rather than using a sample. So I'm going to do it first by using the wavetable that comes with Ableton. And to write the bass line in, usually it doesn't matter what sound you've got. You can always do the sound design afterwards. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to choose that. And with tech house, usually not doing too many big jumps. It makes it kind of sound a bit naughty and a bit, bit naughty, which is what we like for tech house. So just a couple of semitones, and then I'm doing it higher up because it's easier to kind of hear what notes it's hitting. So let's just record that in. Boom, boom, boom. and let's go in and see what it looks like. So I'm just going to quantize it, select everything, make sure that the 16th notes are selected on the grid. You can see that's eighths, too wide. 16ths is perfect because that's where all the groove takes place. So let's just quantize it and tweak these, make sure they're all in time. Cool, so let's just repeat that. And you can see everything's dancing around these couple of semitones, so we're not doing big chord changes because it's not trance. And let's take the volume down and then just drop this down a couple of octaves because it's a bass line. So we can hear it sounds really big and loud, but we've got all this headroom, and that's because we've used this distortion on the kick drum. So now let's just craft this bass sound. I want it to have a bit more of a saw synth sound. Now, as it's a bass line, I'm going to switch it to mono like this because we don't want those bass notes kind of blurring into each other. And now I want to add a little bit of a filter envelope, which is just going to close down that filter frequency very quickly and give it a more plucky sound. So I'll take it down there, go for the matrix and assign it to envelope 2. So this is the shape that's going to be controlling how this filter reacts. So it gives it a bit more of a squelchy sound. Now I want to make this a lot wider, this bass. And now I don't usually do that with bass, but I'm going to today, and I'm going to show you how you can get around any potential phasing issues. Let's get a second oscillator on there first to make this sound a bit more interesting. Let's see what other sounds we can find. Just experimenting with some different waves. That's pretty cool. So now let's make this a lot wider. So the way I'm going to do that is add some unison. I'm just going to experiment with a couple of them. And on the master channel, I've got this utility and I've created a shortcut for it. So if we go to our keyboard shortcuts, you can see I've got my shortcut, which just switches it to mono. So I can very quickly test how it sounds. And is the bass line kind of cancelling itself out? Still sounds nice and strong. Cool. Now I'm going to tighten that up a little bit. I'm going to do that by using a utility plugin. I'm just going to bring in that stereo width because it's a bit wide at the moment. We don't need it that wide. Cool. So there's our main bass house groove, our main tech house groove, sorry. Lots of headroom. So now let's get on to the next thing. That would be an atmosphere loop. And this is a way to get a bit of texture into the sound rather than just normal drums. So I'm going to go Atmos texture, and I'm going to use splice for this. This is going to be a percussive element. I'm going to color it green, the natural color of drums. And then I'm going to go to splice. And I've searched for percussion, and I'm listening out for something that just sounds organic. So I found this one earlier. Some weird clicking, dripping sound. So I'm going to use that, and we're going to synchronize that to the beat of the track. So if we go in, we can see it says it's 85 BPM. So if we make sure that the beginning of the clip is at the first transient, like there, press warp and select 85, it should now be in sync with our track. Now I can see that the transients are slightly off the grid. You can see here this arrow shows the transient, but then here is the exact grid, so it might sound slightly out of time. Okay, it's twice as fast as I want, so I'm just going to press this button. And I'm just going to tighten it up by holding Command and then just dragging those transients onto the grid a bit more, like so. And I'm just going to use that first bit and repeat it over and over. And it's almost like a hi-hat effect that it's creating. So let's just compress it so there's a bit less dynamic range, because you can see how loud some parts of this are and how quiet some parts of it are as well. And this last one here is a little bit early, so let's move that there. That's better. So I'll use this one because I've tweaked it now. Just make sure they're all updated. Should have done that first really, but hey, what are you gonna do, eh? So now we've got our percussion loop. Let's just take out some of the low end. Don't need all that rumble. Okay, cool. Onto the drums themselves, the main drums. I might change this bass a little bit and make it a little bit more low down. Change the shape of the envelope. That sounds pretty cool. Okay, so for the drums, I'm going to use the EDM Tips Creative Toolkit, which you can check out below this video. And I'm going to use a really short, sharp, snappy clap. That will do. So let's just drag that in, and we're going to program this in rather than using a loop. So every other kick. Really short, sharp, and snappy. Maybe the fourth one's going to sound a bit nicer. Now I prefer the third one. And every other beat, like so. And we're going to create a lot of interest in these drums now. So that's our main beat. And the next thing we need to create in the beat is the hi-hats, obviously. So I'm going to go to the cymbals in the EDM Tips Creative Toolkit, find an open hat. Let's get that sound. Nice, sharp, slightly harsh sounding open hat. And I want to make sure that the open hat closes exactly at this point. So exactly before the next clap plays. And that's to keep our drums super tight, which is really important. So I'm going to go to classic, just turn the release right down. And then it's just the sustain that's going to stop it as soon as it finishes. Like so. Let's just copy and paste that. In between every kick. Let's choose a different. That's quite cool. So just experimenting with a couple of those waveforms to find something I really like the sound of. Okay, boom, on to the next thing. We are going to, what should we do? I think we'll do some vocals next. We'll do that. But first, let me know if you're enjoying this so far. Give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother, if we're feeling holy. And don't forget, if you want some one-on-one tuition with me, if you want to get your music sounding really good really quickly, do check out the coaching link below this video. Okay, let's continue. Now for the vocals, I could have used something on Splice, as I usually do, but I wanted actually to create something completely original. So let's do that. I'm creating an audio track. Let's open up the routing. I'm taking the input from this little chap here, and yeah, we're ready to go basically. So let's just make some random vocals. I'm gonna have a sip of tea. So, okay, levels coming in. Let's just record this. I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. That's suitably tech house sounding, just like slightly not bothered sounding vocals. And I'm going to make these sound even weirder if you thought it was possible. It is possible. I'm going to tweak the formants and whatnot. So let's first have a listen to this embarrassment. Nah, let's not actually. Taxi. Oh man. Let's get the transient starting a bit sooner. I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. So I've just kind of brought the beginning of it forward so it's all in time. And what we're going to do now is we are going to change it to Complex Pro, and I'm going to tweak the form and the shift to make it sound a bit even weirder.
I like tea. I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. I like tea.
What? What?
I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. I like tea.
Yeah, okay, we're going to use that. Now let's kind of screw it up even more. We're going to put some compression on it for the same reason. It's quite, quite peaky, quite a lot of dynamic range here. So let's just tighten it up a bit.
Like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. I like tea, and tea likes me.
Now I'm going to add some EQ. I'll just take out some of the low end and tweak it, make it fit a bit in with the other sounds.
I like tea.
I'm going to turn the drums down a bit. They're a little bit loud.
I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
Okay, so those ridiculous vocals are now ready to have the next thing done to them, which is to make them really wide sounding using the Haas effect. And this again is something that Chris Lake does really well, his use of stereo fields. So quite often the drums and the bass will be quite kind of mono, and then it allows space in the stereo field for stuff like vocals, stuff like synth effects to pop out the mix. So to create this Haas effect, what I'm going to do is just put a normal delay unit on there. I'm going to choose 0 feedback, 100% dry and wet. Ping pong, take off the sync, take down the timing to be a very small amount of milliseconds, and unlink the left and the right. And then what that's going to do is delay the left signal and the right signal and play them panned out left and right. And that's going to give the illusion of a really wide stereo sound, but really it's just a mono sound played left and one delayed very slightly, then played right as well.
I like tea.
And I'm going to check this in mono to make sure it's not creating some weird phasing effect.
I like tea.
Like you can hear there, it's creating some strange phasing.
I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me.
But if you spread it too loud, then it sounds delayed, and we don't want that. So it's finding that sweet spot, usually anywhere between 5 and 20 milliseconds.
I like tea, and
like that's
tea
too much.
likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
Let's try that.
I like tea.
So this is with it off,
I like
completely
tea,
mono,
tea
and this is on.
Likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is just have a listen to that in the mix.
I like tea, and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
Okay, on to the next thing. We need some techno stabs. So I'm going to create another MIDI channel, call this Techno Stabs, and it's going to be a synth. We'll do it from scratch again. I wanted to do everything from scratch today, guys. So I'm going to color this cyan, the natural color of synths in the wild. And I'm going to, again, use the wavetable. And we can actually work out what key this is in. If it's mostly bouncing around on C, that means that our track is probably in C. And if it's a tech house track, it's probably a minor key. So straight away, we know this track's going to be in C minor. I'm not hearing that for some reason. What I'm going to do actually is add a bit more texture to this bass. Then we're going to do the techno stabs. This bass is a bit vanilla for me at the moment. We want to add some more depth and interest to it. So what I'm going to do is go back to this matrix and assign another envelope and have it control some of these wavetable positions. So if we go here and have it select oscillator 1 position, you can see now it's moving that position. Let's have a listen in mono. Let's make it a really short, sharp stab. Just to give it some character. Just to mess up the sound a bit. Let's also do that for oscillator 2. we go there, choose oscillator 2 position. And let's see if we can warp it as well. That's the great thing about this synth. And you can do this in Serum or Vital as well. You can hear it's just adding a little bit of extra gnarliness to the synth. Okay, onto those techno stabs. So again, we're going to start completely from scratch with a wavetable. We're just going to play a little techno chord, which would generally be a minor chord. Or we might just play the fifths. So the root note of the track, which is the C, the fifth above that, which is a G, and I might play the octave below that G as well. So this is our sound. Let's just make it into a more of a techno stab sound though. So again, saw wave, then we're going to choose envelope 2, assign it to that filter frequency. And the way we are going to do that is just use envelope 2 again, like so. Bit of a dead mouse kind of pluck sound. Let's get another oscillator on there. Now we want this to be really nice down and low to give it a really deep feel. So we're going to add some reverb to this in a second as well. But first let's add some unison just to widen it out with some more voices. That's kind of cool. And again, it's a really nice wide sound now. Let's put some reverb directly on the channel. And this is so we can really smear back the transient energy. So now it's like a really nice deep sounding stab. Perhaps a bit less of that filter envelope. Cool, that's sounding quite good. Let's boost up the volume of that. Add a little bit of equalization. Take out the really low end. And some high end as well. And I think let's make this a bit longer, this reverb. Cool, so now we've got like a deep techno stab. So let's just program that in, and we're not going to overuse this. It has to be used quite sparsely. So again, you can press scale, you could press C minor and choose the actual scale you're using, press scale, and only those notes are available, and you can never hit a wrong note if you do that. So root note of the track. Again, it's all happening on the 16ths, just before the beats on the grid. So with everything else on, in fact, let's just do it with the kick. And that's all we're going to do. Let's just add the chord. So the fifth above it, which as I said was on the G. So it's called the fifth because it's 5 intervals above within that scale. So look, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's pop one there. And let's put the octave above and see if that sounds good. Yeah, it sounds better on the C. So that's our techno stab. Let's just repeat it exactly the same. And with everything else, with the bass actually, there's one more thing. I know I'm tweaking the bass a lot, but it's really important. You know, you just want to get the bass exactly right, sounding exactly as you want. And what was I going to do? I can't even remember what I was going to do to the bass now. So we might just leave it as it is for the moment. If it comes back to my mind, then we'll do it again.
I like T and
Okay, next thing we are going to do is we are going to create some of these really interesting synths that Chris is very good at using. So let's just get into it. We're going to be creating 3. We're going to be creating like a little incidental whoop sound, and then a couple of risers, or maybe just one riser. I'll do a vocal effect as well. But first, let's create this whoop bass. Again, cyan. Don't forget, let me know if you're enjoying this, guys, and leave a comment. Let me know what you want me to cover on this channel, even different formats. You know, I don't always need to do these in the style of, it's just they seem to be quite popular. So yeah, just let me know in the comments.
I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
So for this whoop, again, we're going to go with the wavetable, just stick to what we're using. And I'm going to be using pitch envelope for this one. So the way I'm going to do that is go to my matrix and then assign pitch to envelope 2, which is going to give a rising pitch sound. So let's just add some attack. I want to turn off the release though. I want it to stop. And we'll choose a saw wave. And that's it, like pretty simple. But what I'm going to do to make this more interesting is if I group this wavetable, open it up here, and then create another chain, I'm going to add some white noise to this. And I'm going to do this using the operator. And this again helps create that kind of slightly driven and distorted sound by using white noise over your synths. Very popular in Future Rave as well, and you can check out my Future Rave video that I've linked to here as well. So let's just take this operator down, choose a white noise oscillator, and we can hear this is with it off, and this is with it on. So let's just pan it slightly left, and now we've got stereo width. We've got the white noise out one side, and then the whooping sound out on the other side. So let's start adding a little bit of arrangement here as well. And I'm going to just use a really short amount of these, and I'm going to switch my grid to triplets.
I like tea.
And just put one on these 3 triplets.
I like tea and tea.
So the way that you could do this with production, or rather arrangement, is you could just have the drop happen without any of the other sounds, and then everything comes in after this whoop. So it's like a false drop almost. So you could go something like this. Something like this.
Tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
This is a ridiculous vocal, but I want to make it sound a little bit more ridiculous. So what I could do is I'm going to create another vocal. And I don't know why I'm going to do this, but we're going to do it. And this is going to create a different effect completely. So I'm going to make a stupid noise. Ha! Ha! Like that. Job done. Finished. Get this out to the press. Let's get it released. So now I'm going to, again, mess with the formants on this to make it sound more like a chipmunk, because that's good. So let's just find it. Ha! Ha! Put it up in pitch.
Ha, 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 ha.
So, you know, it's just to create some weird audio effect. That's all we're really trying to do. And I'm going to use this really great plugin that came with Ableton 11, I think it was introduced in. And that is the hybrid reverb. And if you want to learn how to use every single part of Ableton 11, you can check out my Ableton 11 for Beginners course. I'll link to that below as well. Really is for beginners, for anyone who wants to know everything inside out. So let's just search through some of the presets on this to find some weird audio kind of stereo effect. Now that's a bit standard. So we go reverb, hybrid reverb, special effects. Let's listen to some of these. That's pretty cool. I kind of like that in a weird devilish kind of way. Because again, it's just creating different textures, which is really important, you know, creating these interesting textures. And what we're going to do is also add our own kind of ping pong delay, and we're going to use, again, triplets for that. So if we put an echo after this harmonic tension, which is kind of putting it in its own space, now we are going to choose an echo plugin, which is great. A really good plugin in Ableton. Choose ping pong delay. Then I'm going to choose triplets instead of dotted. And let's have a listen. We want it to be going da da da, kind of in the same pattern as this Woop. Yeah, something like that. Don't like these vocals though. What I'm going to do about that is just absolutely mess them up. I think the way I'm going to do it is by duplicating it and then tweaking the formant on the second one and putting it down an octave or down some semitones at least. So now we've got this weird demonic voice, which sounds quite cool. So I'm going to group those two vocals together and just keep them locked in so I can control them. You know, I could take down the stereo width of that effect if I like, because they've both got the Haas effect on, so they're really wide at the moment. But I like it wide actually, so let's leave it there. But we'll turn it off for the time being. Now, the next thing we're going to do is create a weird distorted rising effect. And again, this is to kind of coincide with this vocal stab, which we're going to color so it's the same color as the other vocals. It'll be purple. And if you've watched my John Hopkins tutorial a few weeks ago, you're going to recognize some of these techniques we're about to do. So, assign tracks. Let's get this distorted riser. This is going to be cool. I haven't shown this before. I showed something similar in that John Hopkins thing, but not quite the same. So again, we're going to use a wavetable. Saw wave, always the saw wave. I'm going to create another oscillator with a saw wave. Let's turn it down a bit though. Turn it down. Now let's detune them. So the first oscillator I'm going to take down a few cents, and up I'll take the other one. So you kind of got this Hoover sound, which is cool. And much the same as I did before, I'm going to group it and then create our white noise operator on the other channel. So just select white noise, turn it down a bit, pan it left. Now, this is where the interesting stuff happens. I'm going to put a reverb after just the wavetable, not the white noise as well, because I'll show you what happens if you do it just after both. So this is after both. It really softens the white noise, and we don't want that. We want the white noise to still be nice and crisp. So if I bring it to within just the wavetable's chain, we've now only got the wavetable being affected. And that's why the order in which you put the plugins is so important. So now let's add some longevity to this reverb. And this is because we're going to be doing a pitch bend right on the riser, which sounds a bit scary. It's kind of cool. Let's turn down the operator a little bit. I might take some out, some of the bass frequencies out from the white noise. And now this is how we create a really interesting distorted pad. we are going to put the distortion on using the amp in Ableton after the reverb. And that means the reverb tail is going to be distorted as well. So if we turn this to mono so it's still in stereo and then just feed some of this in from the dry wet, this is where we are at the moment. And now listen to this. You got that really gnarly effect. It kind of sounds like something from War of the Worlds. Let's go to the wavetable. We're going to take out some of the bass frequencies because we're getting too much bass build up there. So that's the one. Yes. And that's something Chris Lake is really good at doing, kind of using these distorted sounds, as I said, that sound like they're much louder than they actually might be in the mix. So let's create a riser there. Again, starting on the C. That's gnarly. And we are just going to... I mean, this is a bit complicated. This stuff is the kind of stuff we go into in the accelerator, but we go through all the basics first, of course. I just want to work quickly and get something that you can kind of understand and replicate. Because, of course, it's not about trying to copy Chris Lake. It's about trying to pick apart his techniques so you can use them in your own way in your own music. So hopefully you're learning some new techniques today. So let's have a listen to this. That sounds pretty cool. Now I want to add to the drums and add a bit more interest because they're not really grooving enough. So let's do that. And don't forget, you can download these below. So I think we need to build these drums out and get a ride cymbal in there. So let's go to our ride cymbals. Go to drum hits. Let's find some ride cymbals. Here we go, cymbals ride. Yeah, that one will do. Let's use that. And I want ultimate control over this. So once again, I'm going to go and turn the release right down. So every time the MIDI note is finished, the sound stops, and that's what we want. So let's go and program them in on every eighth. Just like that. Duplicate and then bring them up very slowly. Try and tweak the transpose on the pitch, but we'll do it with the bass on as well so we know what pitch it should be. We can turn it up a lot louder to find the right pitch actually of the ride. So I think that's the right note, but obviously we need to take out some of the frequencies. And then we can push it right back in the mix again and just bring it in as a very gentle sound. And the next thing we're going to do with the drums is add a couple of extra skipping snares, you know, just to give that real housey feel, get that groove going. So, well, we can go to the Creative Toolkit again, and let's find a snare. Probably just one of those snares. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's add a couple of those. Just on the 16ths again, it's all about the 16ths when it comes to the rhythm. So you can see each of these bars has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 to every 4 beats. Now, programming on these 16ths, as I said, I've said it 100 times before, but if you stick to those, you can't go wrong. Like this, just at the end of the bar. Something like that. That's cool. And I'm just going to add this tonal snare on the last beat. Again, just to add some more interest. Just layering it up. Let's put one there as well. And we'll add a couple of tom drums as well. So what have we got in terms of tom drums? Have a sip of water. Have I finished my tea? Oh no, I haven't.
Nice.
Boy, it tastes way better out of an EDM Tips mug, doesn't it? Oh yes. Okay, let's find a tom sound and just get the groove really going. Ooh. Commodore 64 drums. So again, on the 16th, I'm just going to add these in a bit quiet. I'll pound one left, a little bit, and one right, just to add some more stereo width. And just have a, like a little drum intro. Something like that. I don't really like this ride, so what I'm going to do is add some sidechain compression to it. I haven't added any sidechain compression in this whole track. You know, if you can get it sounding good without doing anything like that, then, you know, when you add all the effects, it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to put a normal compressor after that ride symbol, just like that. Open up the sidechain channel, press sidechain, take the input from my sidechain trigger track, which is there. Let me just turn off Slack. And this is just a short, sharp tick on every beat instead of using the kick. And that's because then all of the length of that pumping effect comes from the compressor rather than the length of the sample. So let me give an example. So now we're getting that pumping in time with the rest of the drums. Right, now what we're going to do is a little bit of arrangement, and let's do that by just duplicating that. And I'm going to show you what you might do before the break. In fact, we'll start with the break. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to route the kick and the bass together, and let's call that K and B bus. Out of it red. And now this is what we're going to do. We're going to be processing these two together. So to do that, I'm going to get, there's a lot you could do, you know. First, we'll start with the filter. That's the easiest thing. We need more bass though, it's a bit quiet. That's a bit better. So then when we hit on the drop, we are going to put all of those frequencies back in. And then we'll hit there with the full frequencies. But I'm going to add some more effects as well. I'll tweak these a bit. Let's add some resonance to the bass. Yes, now you're talking. Yes. Now we've added some resonance, which just gives it a bit more character. I should have done this at the beginning. Let's see what it sounds like with all the frequencies in though. I need to automate that. So I'm going to automate that to go off on the drop like so. Whoops. No. There. Yeah, that's way better with resonance. That was with none. Again, just adds to that snappy effect. Cool. So now we're going to start off. And then on the bass, on the drop here, this is when we're going to do that cool effect where we just start with just the beats. And I'll take the ride cymbals out. And the clap. We'll leave the claps. Like that. But that would only happen like on the drop. You don't want to overuse these effects as well. So as long as your synths are kind of interplaying around each other and you're not using them too much, that should sound pretty cool. So let's try this, a little bit of arrangement and see how it sounds. No, don't want the distorted right. Or the Woop. Oh no, I just fully deleted them. Oops. Don't want to be doing that, do we? No, absolutely not. We'll just take them out here. So then we could start with this, with the vocals, maybe.
I like tea.
No. What? I need to do something with these vocals. Probably delete them. No.
I like tea and tea likes
That's
me.
cooler.
It takes me to my ecstasy.
That's it, yeah. So let's just extend this because this is sounding pretty cool now. I'm going to untick that box there, this lock symbol. So our automation is going to move as well. And let's just make this bit twice as long, this intro. And this is what I mean about Chris Lake's skill. So in the kick and the bass, what's happened there? Gone kind of slightly out of time for some reason. Oh, I see, because it's not actually a full bar. There we go. And then let's just duplicate that. Make sure we've got a proper nice clip that goes all the way to the end. You know, that's a common problem I see when people aren't careful about having their clips all the right length. Sometimes they can drift out of time if you're not careful. So this is what I'm going to show you. This is what I wanted to show you in terms of creating interest in the stereo width and with the filters in a way that Chris Lake does. So if we get another delay and we just put that here, we're going to create a harsh effect with the kick and the bass. And that is a ridiculous thing to do. Like I would barely ever recommend this. So as long as you're checking in mono and you make sure that you're not running into weird phasing issues. So I'm going to switch to mono with my mono switch and let's have a listen. Like you can hear it sounds weird now. Phasing issues. But those phase issues might actually be quite desirable if you want them for an incidental effect. Because now listen how weird the kick and the bass sound. Let's just pull in the stereo field a bit with the utility plugin. Like this is weird. But the idea is that if you create an effect like this, in fact, I'm going to delete this automation and group these things together and just control it all by automating on the group like this. So let's turn the group off there. And then it just creates this difference, this difference across the track. And we'll turn the volume down here as well a bit. And again, with the drums, we are going to turn the volume down here a little bit. -2. And then on the drop, we'll go back to full volume, which would be on the 0 dB. And again, it's just going to create more contrast between these two different sections. So let's listen to it all together.
I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to.
And with the drums as well, you can create some weird effect just on the.
I like tea and tea likes me. It takes
then we go. So that's kind of what we're doing. We are trying to create this interesting variation between these two sections. Whoops, no, not. Oh, that's why I made the mistake. Okay, let's try it again. So here we go. On for the initial bit and then off there.
I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy. I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to my ecstasy.
That's the vibe I'm going for.
I like tea and tea likes me. It takes me to.
Yeah, so anyway, I hope you get the vibe of what I'm going for with this. I'm going to do a bit more work to it before I give it to you for download, but I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please like it, share with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. And yeah, I hope to catch you soon. Don't forget to check out the coaching program below. And until next time, cheers and happy producing.